Good afternoon. My name is Craig Browning. I'm the External Affairs Officer for FEMA assigned to this event. Thanks for joining the state and federal press briefing on the Norfolk Southern train derailment. Just a few notes and ground rules as we get started. Speakers today, EPA Region 5 Administrator Debra, followed by Ohio EPA Director Ann Vogel, and FEMA Region 5 Administrator Tom Sivak. Also on hand, we have Deputy Railroad Administrator for the Federal Rail Administration, Mikel Cipollini, who will be available for questions. After today's remarks, we will open it up to some questions. I ask that when you do ask questions, please speak loudly for our interpreter to be able to hear you. Also, please keep the ASL interpreter in your shot. Please, thank you. And now I'll turn it over to Region 5 EPA Administrator Debra.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be back with you. Thanks for joining us. As mentioned, I'm Debra, the Regional Administrator for US EPA Region 5. And I'd like to start off, as I did yesterday, by sharing a few operational updates from our response efforts here in East Palestine. To date, EPA has conducted 578 home reentry screenings and continues air monitoring at 15 stations within the community. I continue to be pleased that there have been no exceedances for residential air quality standards, and outdoor air quality remains normal. We will continue to offer the air screening service to any resident within the evacuation zone who wants screening. I'd like to remind the community that we recently set up a new hotline. It's posted on EPA's website, and the number is 866-361-0526. Members of the community can call this dedicated phone line to be directed to various services, including the opportunity to begin the intake process for scheduling cleaning services. Finally, EPA and other responding agencies will participate in a public meeting and open house later this week. More details will be coming soon. At yesterday's briefing, I also announced that moving forward, waste disposal plans, including disposal location and transportation routes for contaminated waste, would be subject to EPA review and approval. Today, I'm pleased to announce that we have identified EPA certified facilities that will be able to accept at least some of these wastes, meaning that the railroad will be able to restart shipments tomorrow. As we work to identify additional options, some of the liquid wastes will be sent to a facility in Vickery, Ohio, where it will be disposed of in an underground injection well. Tomorrow morning, Norfolk Southern will also begin shipping solid waste to the Heritage Incinerator in East Liverpool, Ohio. We are continuing to work with the railroad and our state partners to identify other solid waste disposal locations. All of this is great news for the people of East Palestine and the surrounding community, because it means the cleanup can continue at a rapid pace. As I said yesterday, we owe it to East Palestine and residents nearby to move waste out of the community as quickly as possible, and that's exactly what we're working to do. At EPA, we have decades of experience dealing with hazardous waste, both from cleaning up contaminated sites to regulating the landfills where it's disposed of. And we know it's far better to have it safely stored in a properly constructed and monitored disposal facility than remain here any longer than necessary. Every aspect of hazardous waste transportation and disposal is closely regulated and overseen by federal, state, and local governments. And let me go into a little more detail about the protections we have in place to keep people safe. From the moment trucks and rail cars are loaded until the waste is safely disposed of. Both EPA and the Department of Transportation have regulations that govern the transport of waste from the East Palestine site. Additionally, Norfolk Southern must comply with all federal, state, and local requirements related to transportation. These extensive requirements cover everything from waste labeling, packaging, and handling, as well as requirements for shipping documents that provide information about the wastes and where they are going. The facilities that will receive wastes from East Palestine from the cleanup here have been evaluated by EPA and found to be acceptable to take the wastes. EPA is continuing to evaluate options for safe and proper disposal facilities with the capacity sufficient to handle the needs of this cleanup. We'll provide more information as it becomes available. And finally, EPA will work with our local, state, and federal partners to use our long-standing experience and expertise in these matters to ensure health and safety, to support the East Palestine community, and to hold Norfolk Southern accountable. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Ann Vogel. I'm the director of the Ohio EPA. I'm pleased to report that the cleanup on the site of the derailment continues to go smoothly. All of the cars, all the rail cars except for the NTSB held cars have been removed from the site. This is so critically important to moving on to next steps. We can now excavate additional contaminated soil and begin installing monitoring wells. These are monitoring wells at the site of the derailment, which will tell us whether there's contamination to groundwater. But this is critically important to the mission of the Ohio EPA to ensure the health of the residents of East Palestine and the environment here. And so if I may divert, since it's Sunday, just a tad, it's a real privilege for me to represent the governor here in East Palestine and the lieutenant governor, but I also represent 1,000 people that work for the Ohio EPA across the state of Ohio, all of whom are dedicated public servants working really hard to make sure that East Palestine is restored. This is job number one for us right now. It's all hands on deck. We have a 50-year history at Ohio EPA of doing this work, so know that you're in good hands. And as the governor continues to say, we're here, we're not going anywhere. We want this beautiful church to get back to. They probably are tired of us. They're probably ready to kick us out, but I do want to say a continued thanks to them hosting us and to the town. So I'm happy to take any questions after I turn it over to Tom Sivak.
Thank you, Director Vogel. Good afternoon, I'm Tom Sivak. I'm the Regional Administrator for FEMA Region 5. FEMA continues to support the state and the EPA, and as of this afternoon, we have 49 personnel on the ground to support the federal effort. Our top priority remains to support and work with our local, state, and federal partners to engage the community by providing information and resources to all impacted communities. We understand residents have a lot of questions, and we will continue to ramp up our efforts to provide information needed so families can begin to feel safe again in the community. Yesterday, interagency teams, in collaboration with the Columbiana County Community Emergency Response Teams, were at fixed locations in the community. Collectively, they had more than 350 interactions with residents. The teams have been answering questions and handing out flyers like this one right here. The flyers contain information about public health, environmental monitoring, and also public meetings. We are so grateful for the work of the Columbiana County Emergency Response Teams, and it's important to note that they are residents of the community. They are your neighbors, and they have been engaging since day one. And we are so grateful for their partnership. We will continue to focus on getting information out into the residents' hands and listening and learning about existing and emerging needs in the community and those that the community in East Palestine are facing. I want to make it very clear, every disaster is different, and we want to hear from the impacted residents. We want to hear your concerns, your needs, and your worries, and we will work with you to match you with the assistance you need. Tomorrow and in the days to come, we will continue to lean forward alongside our federal, state, and local partners throughout the community to make sure that we meet the goal of collectively reaching everyone impacted. We welcome residents to reach us via the hotline. That number is 866-361-0526. We are ready to help. Residents with questions about air monitoring, water testing, cleanup activities, public participation events, and scheduling home cleaning services should call the hotline. Moving forward, you can expect personnel in a fully unified way between the community, state, and federal personnel. Over the coming days, the Unified Coordination Group will continue to ramp up our efforts across affected communities, expanding to include Beaver County, Pennsylvania, to ensure we are connecting to everyone, every community, local, state, and federally. FEMA will continue to support this effort as long as we are needed. We are committed to you and your safety and the well-being of the people of East Palestine and impacted communities. Finally, we are committed to transparency. We will inform the public daily through these reoccurring press conferences. Thank you.
Now we'll open it up to questions.
Question for the EPA Administrator, the regional. You mentioned that cleanup operations will resume tomorrow. What about the locations in Michigan and Texas where some of this hazardous material was already shipped? Will that continue in any capacity? Is that material being vetted?
So that material was already vetted and it is at those facilities, but they are not currently accepting any more. We're exploring to see whether they have capacity, and we're continuing to make sure that any facility it has off-site approval under CERT.
Were those sites EPA approved to begin with?
They were.
Okay. Next question.
Question for FEMA. What is being done directly to help residents? Because we've been speaking with residents who say they try to contact FEMA and that they're not getting any type of help, that they've just been told that they're only there to help the city. Also speaking with residents, they have a huge distrust right now with FEMA because they've been saying that they're getting feedback that the water's okay, that the air is okay, but they're being rushed to the hospital with all type of illnesses. We spoke to a resident yesterday who had to rush his wife to the hospital that continues to feel illnesses since the derailment. But what is done directly to help the citizens? We've been speaking with them and they're saying the exact opposite.
FEMA is here coordinating with our federal, local, and state agencies, and we're committed to ensuring that they have the information to feel safe again.
Question for EPA Director. You come to the microphone.
Yep.
We know that the research is obviously showing that water and air quality is safe for people, but people are still getting sick. Animals are getting sick. Why is that the case? Could it be that you're getting sick from something you're not testing? And if so, can you explain?
You know, I'm not a medical professional, and we recommend that anybody who isn't feeling well, who shows symptoms of any illness, can seek out their medical provider, a doctor, a nurse. Talk to the folks at the clinic that's been opened up here in the house. I can't answer why they're getting sick.
But you're familiar with the chemicals that were in the train. Could it be that there was a chemical that you're not testing for right now that could actually be the reason why these people are getting sick? Is that possible?
I can't answer that. We've been testing for the most toxic chemicals that we knew of on the train, and we have seen no exceedances inside the homes or in the local air.
What about dioxins?
We're not currently testing for dioxins. We're considering it. Dioxins are ubiquitous in the environment. They were here before the accident. They will be here after. And we don't have baseline information from this area to do a proper test, but we are talking to our toxicologists and looking into it.
Could those dioxins though be causing possibly people?
I can't answer that. I'm not a toxicologist or a medical professional.
Next question. Okay.
Actually, I have a question for the Ohio EPA. This sort of follows up to a question that was asked of you yesterday as far as the data that was provided to the state. Was Norfolk Southern the only contractor providing the state with air and water quality results before you guys gave the all clear to residents?
No. The Village Water had their own VOC samples.
You had other state contractors testing water and air samples before giving the all clear to residents.
The county and the village had both tested the water. Yes.
And that those results showed that it was clear.
Yes, sir.
I do have one more question. The 5 truckloads of soil and 102,000 gallons of firefighter water that ended up getting returned here to East Palestine, what's the status of that?
I don't know the exact schedule, but they will be shipped out to the receiving sites that I mentioned earlier for liquid and solid wastes.
Administrator, do you have any scope number of locations that you're looking at as far as potential disposal sites beyond the 2 that are in Ohio?
I'm a bit hearing challenged, so I didn't hear the first part of your question.
You mentioned 2 sites here in Ohio where some of this is now approved to be sent.
Right.
Do you have a longer list or more places?
We're exploring other places. We have to determine if they have the capacity to accept what we anticipate will be the liquid and the solid waste from this cleanup.
Will that be in the state, or are you looking across
We're
the
looking
country?
into it.
Okay. One more question.
Does anybody here have any updates regarding the private well testing that's been happening at all?
I have a number somewhere. I have lots of numbers. 126 private wells have been tested by the county.
Have there been any
County
results
Health.
regarding those?
I believe that they are getting results back. The county health district has jurisdiction over those private wells, and I know that they are communicating directly with well owners as they get results back, and so they're getting that information out as it becomes available.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. We'll have this press briefing again tomorrow and every day going forward at 4 o'clock. Same time, same location. And for any of the media folks that would like one of the flyers that we're handing out to residents here, we'll be passing those out to you as well. Thank you.